So this year, looking at the show music, a majority of our show is going to be using two mallet technique. So this video is going to be teaching two mallet technique. Okay, so most of you have a basic understanding of two mallet from middle school or other experience, but we're going to go ahead and break it down anyway, because you need to make sure that you have your technique as perfect as you can get it, because it will help with your playing ability and your efficiency on fast guns, and it helps us even just being more uniform. So the way I was taught to think about two mallet technique is pinch, lap, flat. So I'm going to break that down. I'm going to use my right hand here. I don't know if this video is going to invert it or not, but just know that this one right here is my right hand. Okay, so you're going to take the mallet, and the first step is pinch. So pinching is with your index finger and your thumb. It creates the front fulcrum, which will allow you movement on faster guns. So if you think of the mallet in thirds, you want your fulcrum to be established right here, this third on this part. Having the fulcrum here allows just a little bit of the mallet to stick out below your hand if you hold it like in the technique. And the reason we have to do this is if you were to hold the stick just back here at the end, it's very loose and you would never be able to complete a fast gun at this kind of movement. It's too uncontrolled. But at the same time, if you were to hold it up here, yeah, you can move it faster, but you're never going to get the height that you need for louder dynamics. So this is essentially the balance between the two. You have just a little bit sticking out. So anyway, your fulcrum, you have to pinch, which is where the pinch part comes from. So when you pinch it, we use the word pinch because you don't squeeze it tight, but you also can't not hold on to it, because so you've got to have a normal amount. If you pinch, then your hand's going to tighten up and you will never be able to move this fast enough. And if you don't hold on to it tight enough, it just kind of falls and you have no control. So it's firm but not tight. So you pinch. After you pinch, the next step is to lap. So this step I feel like is pretty basic to understand. So you've got your three remaining fingers, middle ring and pinky. So you have to wrap it around the mallet and tuck the mallet towards your hand. So when you hold it like this, you'll see what I talked about earlier with a little bit of the mallet sticking out. And really, it's just tucking in the mallet towards your hand, and your front fulcrum will still have the control. A lot of people have a bad habit of, once they establish their fulcrum, they keep their finger kind of scrunched. You need to go ahead and try and flatten it out a little bit. So you've got pinch, lap, and now the last step, flat. Okay, so flat refers to the specific style that we use for two mallet, and even just in general with drumsticks. So there are three different types of grips: German, French, and American. We use American, partially because America's the best, but so you've got pinch, lap. So with American, your wrist is going to face flat up. So that's where the word flat's coming from. German grip is more, you turn your hand inward, and this tends to be used for more of like timpani, and it's a little bit stricter. It kind of tightens your ability. French is more of a lean outward. It's a lot looser than American and German. So American is kind of like in between the two, but it leans a little bit more towards the German because it loosens up the German essentially. So what you do, you've got pinch wrap, and you keep your hand like this. It's kind of hard to see, but my hand is facing straight up. It's not facing any other direction than up. And then with this, you've got the technique. So pinch, wrap, flat. So you repeat the same thing with the other hand. Pinch, wrap, flat. And when we position our mallets above the keyboard instrument, we take our right mallet, which is this one right here, and you put it in front of the left mallet. So the left mallet will be closer to your body. I'm going to go ahead and talk about dynamics while we're here. So in mallets, all of your movement comes from the wrist until you get at faster runs where you start using the front fulcrum a little. But since it all comes from wrist, it's almost like you're bouncing a basketball. You have to make sure that the mallet rebounds, because if not, you're going to hit and then it's just going to be down here and you're not going to keep a consistent dynamic. So with dynamics, we use different inch measurements to convey different dynamics. The dynamics that we'll see in front ensemble: pianissimo, piano, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo. So the way we start, I'll go ahead and start at the bottom, pianissimo. So pianissimo is barely any sound. So you're going to have it about 1 inch off the instrument. And in front ensemble, we have to make sure our sticks line up in height so that we are all playing at the same time, because if not, it's going to flam horribly. So the way we do this, we have the line set up, and everyone looks inward to the center instrument, which this year will be me. So you'll try and match my stick heights. That way we can sound in unison. And I'll elaborate more on this when we're actually together playing, because it will be so much easier to understand, because I can't describe it without having instruments in front of me. Anyway, so you take the mallet, and for pianissimo, it's about 1 inch above the instrument, which that's not 100% inset. There are certain times where we may, for pianissimo, take it up a little bit or even barely be audible. So the next height will be piano, which is about 3 inches, so somewhere like that. From piano, we go to mezzo piano, which is about 6 inches. From mezzo piano, we go to mezzo forte, and then mezzo forte is about 9 inches. Forte is 12 inches, which you can't entirely see it in this video. Okay, sorry about that, there was a plane. So, fortissimo. Fortissimo generally is described at either 15 inches or the maximum wrist rotation that you can get. So you can't see in this video, but it's as high as you can get it in strike. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what it looks like playing at those different heights. Okay, so before I get started, let me just talk about how you should practice technique without an instrument. So being in front ensemble is hard because we don't have our instruments at home like everyone else can. It limits our practicing ability. So there are still ways we can practice. You can practice technique and you can practice music. So when you practice music, if you have like a piano or like an electric keyboard or it's difficult, but even a keyboard on like a phone, you can practice playing through some of the music just so it's not going to be the same, but at least you'll be familiar with the music so that when we get into it, it will make a little bit more sense. When it comes to practicing technique, you have mallets, which I got to all of you guys. When you play with mallets, you've got a few different options. You can sit on the floor and hit on your carpet. You can hit on hardwood. I would prefer, preferably, in my opinion, using carpet, because it gives you a little bit of rebounds that you get off of like a marimba or a vibraphone, because when you bounce, you rebound the mallet. So, or you could do what I'm doing. You can use a drum pad. You can hit on a table. Really anything that's not going to make your parents too mad. Do not start hitting on your parents' nice wooden table and tell them that I told you to do that, because I did not. Okay, so getting into playing, I will go through and I'll show you all the different dynamics, but first let me talk about when you're just hitting the instrument. So on a normal keyboard, you'll be set up and you'll strike, and when you strike, all of the movement comes from your wrist. It is not an elbow. You do not do this. That's incorrect. It's a strict movement. It's like bouncing a basketball. You bounce and you rebound. So the ball will go down when you bounce it, and then it rebounds and you bring it back up to where it starts. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then same thing with the other hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. I missed that last one, sorry. So dynamics. Pianissimo is about 1 inch. It's going to be it's tempting at lower heights to not use your wrist quite as much because you don't need it. You do need to make sure you're moving your wrist, because if not, you're not really going to get the movement you need. At higher heights, it's tempting to use your arm, which is bad because then it's just out of control. So moving on is piano at 3 inches. So next is mezzo piano, 6 inches. And then we have mezzo forte, 9 inches. We have forte at 12 inches. And then we have fortissimo at 15 inches, or really, I use this loosely, it sometimes uses a little bit of arm. So it's So notice that when I'm striking, my mallet comes back up. I'm using my wrist, and I am keeping the pinch lap flat, and I am keeping my hand flat. A lot of people's general habit is to turn outward, and with practice, you just have to conscientiously think about it. You will slowly start to adapt, and you'll get your hand so that it's facing up every time. So I will, in the next video, have some 2 mallet warm-ups and exercises that we do, and I'll show you just that in action so you can get a better idea of the technique.